Welcome to the moving presentation for the Rosenberg Housing Authority. You are watching this video because you have requested to move at the end of your lease, and so this video will go through the process that you will need to take in order to find a new unit by the time your current lease expires. So the question is, can you move at any time? The answer is no. When you're on the Housing Choice Voucher Program, you must always assure that you are not breaking the contract with your landlord and that the Housing Authority has approved your move. Just know if you come into the Housing Authority and request a move in the middle of your lease, you will be obligated to pay reletting fees to your landlord. These may apply. This is an issue between you and the landlord and is not something that the Housing Authority can remedy for you. You are always free to move after your first year on the program under the following conditions. You need to make sure that you owe no money to the Housing Authority, that you do not owe back rent or debt to your current landlord, that there are no program or lease violations, that you have given the Housing Authority and the landlord the proper written notice. For the Rosenberg Housing Authority, you need to give us a 30-day written notice, and some landlords require up to a 60-day written notice. And you are allowed to move, but only one time per year. Now, it is important to note that you are not allowed to move or get off of housing at the end of your lease without providing proper notice. And you need to look at your lease from your landlord and make sure that you follow their conditions in order to move. The moving process for the Housing Authority. When you receive your recertification application, you must designate that you would like to move on that application. You must also submit all your required verification documents, either through assistance check, if you are doing the recertification process that way, or you will either need to bring it into the office, or if the office is not open, you can push it through the slot in the door, along with your verification documents. If you have indicated that you wish to move, you will need to go to the Rosenberg Housing Authority's website at www.rosenbergha.org. Go to instructional videos, and there you will be required to watch the 2 moving videos that are on that website. During the video, it will request that you put in your name and your email address if applicable. Make sure you fill out those forms and submit them to the Housing Authority. And this is the Housing Authority's certification that you did watch the video. Once we receive that certification that you have watched the video and you understand what's required of you, we will then send you a mutual rescission form that will need to be filled out by you and your landlord. It will show the ending date of your lease. You need to take it to your landlord. Y'all agree on that date and you both sign it and return it to the Housing Authority. You can do that through assistance check. You can do that through the mail. You can do that through email, or you can drop it off at the office. If you do not want to move within the Rosenberg Housing Authority's jurisdiction, but you would rather port to another jurisdiction, you will also be provided with the portability request. You'll just need to fill out the contact information for the Housing Authority that you would like to port to, and we'll take care of that. Once we receive the mutual rescission and the portability packet back, then we will set up an appointment time in order for you to pick up your moving packet. Just pay attention to the instructions on the appointment letter. We will either need to bring the information out to your car, you might be allowed to come into the office, or you might actually have an interview, which is what I just stated right there. Depending upon the issues in the community and in the area at the time, the direct or process in which we will be using will be noted on the letter. The moving packet that you're going to receive, you want to make sure you have the following things in it. You should have a voucher that you will need to sign that will expire within 60 days, which should coincide with the last day of your lease. You will have a rent estimator that will indicate the maximum amount of rent that you are able to pay for your selected unit, and it will give you an estimate on how much you're going to be required to pay each month, and that is dependent upon the income that we have verified. There will be a yellow inspection packet. This is the packet that you will take to your landlord. You will fill out everything that is in orange. Your landlord will fill out everything that is in yellow. This will be the packet that indicates the unit that you wish to move to. You do not want to return this packet to the housing authority until you have been approved by the landlord and are eligible to move into that unit. If you are not eligible, you cannot submit that packet. You will be given a list of apartments that work with the Rosenberg Housing Authority. You are not required to go off that apartment list. You're not required to use any landlord that has already been approved by the Rosenberg Housing Authority. You can always go out and find new landlords, and we'll go through the certification process with them. The green packet that is in your moving packet will be given to a landlord that has never worked with the Rosenberg Housing Authority before. You will also receive a jurisdiction map. The Rosenberg Housing Authority's jurisdiction now includes most of Fort Bend County, and that way you can extend out past just Rosenberg. You can also go out to gosection8.com. Landlords that are interested in working with the Housing Authority can list their units on this site. And we've also enabled our current landlords who have assistance check to be able to list their properties that they have available. If during the process you decide that you cannot find a place and you wish to stay, then you will also have a stay form that's in the document, or it's in the packet, that you can fill out that you'd rather not move, you'd rather stay where you are. We'll talk about that a little later, and that's contingent on whether the landlord has leased out your unit or not. Just know that if you fail to come to your moving appointment and you fail to pick up your packet, this will result in you being unable to move at this time. If you come late or you have received prior authorization to come at a different time, your voucher might extend past the time in which your lease expires. The Housing Authority will not assist you after your lease expires. You will be required to pay on your own until we can move you into a new unit. This is a copy of what the rent estimator looks like. You'll want to be concerned with this. This is your total tenant payment. This is 30% of your current income that we've calculated. However, you're not allowed to go over this amount. So this will kind of give you an estimate of what is in your budget and what you can afford. Then you will need to look at this where it says the apartment rent and this that says the house rent. You must find an apartment rent that is less, in this case, than $981. And if you were looking for a house, you would have to find a house whose monthly rent is less than $881. This rent estimator will also let you know what size voucher you have been assigned. In this case, it was a one-bedroom voucher. This is the Housing Authority's new jurisdiction map. We show down at the bottom all the zip codes that we cover fully, and some of the zip codes we cover partial. We will only cover units that are actually within Fort Bend County. If you at any time lose this jurisdiction map or want to take a look at it, you can find it at our website. Again, if you go under families and then you'll go to find housing, and then there's going to be a link for a jurisdiction map. When you're deciding where to live, you want to keep a few things in mind. You want to make sure that the unit or the house that you're going to is going to meet your family's needs. You want to look at the schools that your kids may be attending and how far your unit is from that school. Do they have a bus that will shuttle the kids to that school? You want to look at the safety. You want to look at the neighborhood and its surroundings. You want to avoid those high crime areas. You want to go and look at the unit or at the house at different times during the day, maybe in the morning, maybe in the evening, and see, are there people congregating around? Are you going to feel safe here? Is it close to your work, or are there working opportunities close to your unit? Will you be able to get your child to childcare if you are working? Is there any public transportation? If you need public transportation and do not have a vehicle, this would be very important. And here again, look at the premises, look at the neighborhood. You will have to stay here for 1 year. So you want to make sure that this unit or this house is going to meet all your needs. If you do not wish to move within Rosenberg's Housing Authority's jurisdiction and you choose to move to another housing authority, this is called portability, where we can transfer your assistance to another housing authority. You need to let us know where you would like to go, and that will be the receiving housing authority. We will send all your documentation to that housing authority. Some things to keep in mind. When you port to another housing authority, their rules will now apply and ours will not. They will have different subsidy standards, which means they might allow fewer or less people per bedroom. They will have different payment standards for a 1 bedroom, a 2 bedroom, a 3 bedroom. They might be less, they might be more than the Rosenberg Housing Authority's payment standards. You will need to be rescreened. You will have to fill out an application. You'll have to provide all your verification documents. They will go over their policies with you. Just remember that once we port you, you have 60 days on your voucher in which you need to complete the portability process, complete the interview, and go and look for a unit. So keep that in mind if you're choosing to port. Once the receiving housing authority has your documentation, they should schedule an appointment with you within 14 days of receiving that portability packet, and they should issue you a voucher on the day of your appointment so that you can go ahead and get their jurisdiction map, get their inspection packet, and start looking for a unit. Like I said, if you are choosing to port outside of the housing authority's jurisdiction, you will need to return the request for portability. You will also still need to return that mutual rescission form because the landlord still needs to know that you plan on moving at the end of your lease. Like I said, we will then send your paperwork to that housing authority, and then you should receive notification from that housing authority to go through their application process. You will not be allowed to move into that new housing authority's jurisdiction until the end of your lease and your contract with the Rosenberg Housing Authority. Once we've received your packets and you are choosing to stay with Rosenberg, you will need to return the yellow inspection packet to the housing authority along with the proposed lease that's going to be signed by you and your landlord. We will then schedule an inspection with the new landlord as soon as they state that the unit is available, and then you will be allowed to move into the new unit once the unit has passed inspection and once you're at the end of your current lease. Now keep in mind that we are not going to begin payment on that new unit until we've received some things from you. Just because the unit's passed, your responsibility is not over. You still need to go sign a lease with your new landlord. We need to receive that lease so you can bring it in or the landlord can send it to us so that we can start a contract with the landlord. You will need to then come in and fill out your signed certification form that will indicate what your final monthly payment will be each month. Just keep in mind that this monthly payment on the recertification form may vary from the rent estimator that you had received previously. This is what your certification looks like. You want to make sure that you take a look at that because you want to know what your tenant share is. This is what you're going to be required to pay, and you want to know when the effective date is. So things to keep in mind. Once you provide your landlord with that mutual rescission form and you have both signed that rescission form, that allows the landlord to start looking for a tenant to lease your existing apartment once you come to the end of your lease. So if you're within the 60 days of your voucher and you are unable to find a unit in time, just know that you might not be able to remain in that unit if the landlord has already rented out that current unit. You might still have to move instead, and if you cannot find a place to move, you would then be terminated from the program. If you fail to pick up your move-in packet on the designated day that we've set up for you without prior notice, you will forfeit your ability to move. The voucher is timed and your receipt of it is timed to coincide with the end of your lease, so there's no break from moving from one apartment to the other. You need to make sure that you do not ever pay more in rent to your landlord than the amount that's designated on your certification. You cannot have an agreement with your landlord on the side to pay more. You must only pay for rent the amount that is designated on the certification form. When the owner is asking for security deposits, it can never exceed the rent that they are charging for 1 full month. And you cannot move into your new unit until it passes inspection. If you do that, you are responsible for the full amount of rent until the Housing Authority has had an opportunity to inspect the unit. Remember that the Housing Authority only assists you with your rent. The additional fees that they charge, such as for utilities, pet deposits, renter's insurance, valet trash, whatever other fees they decide to tell you about or you decide to include, these must be paid by you. So you want to make sure you have enough money in your budget to pay for these fees plus your rent. Please keep in mind that when you're speaking to your landlord about any concerns, about problems, about needed repairs, always speak to them in a courteous and respectful manner. Do not threaten them. Do not raise your voice. Things will go a lot easier for you if you just treat everyone with respect. So in order to wrap up, thank you for your attention today. We want you to remember that we are your housing advocates, that we are here to help you, but we are not your landlord, and any issues between you and your landlord regarding the lease must be resolved between you, and the Housing Authority cannot get involved. So after watching this video, make sure that you fill out the survey that indicates that you have watched this video and you should be receiving your mutual rescission or your request to port paperwork. Make sure you fill that out, return it to the Housing Authority, and then we will set up a time for you to receive your moving packet and sign your voucher. Thank you so much for your time. If you have any questions or concerns, you can still call us at 281-342-1456. You can contact us on assistancecheck.com, or you can email us at rha@rosenbergha.org. Thank you.